Hi everyone, welcome back to My Service Dog and Me. I'm Kate, and this month, the month of July, we are dedicated to talking about healing because we are running a free 4-part workshop all about healing training. And you can find all the information and how to sign up at the link below. We'll be running all 4 parts live, so you can ask questions, everything like that, and then the replays will be available as well. So you can find the information to that at the link below. But to complement that 4-part workshop, we're also going to be talking about healing here on the YouTube channel through the month of July. So today we're going to be starting with one of the areas that we tend to accidentally sabotage our healing training and what you should be doing instead. Because a lot of times the place that we see healing training start to go bad, other than working around distractions, which is something we will be hitting in depth within the workshop, so you're going to want to find, again, that link is below, is the idea of this like evening walk, people taking their dogs for walks without thinking it through, and how hard it can be on your healing training. Because really, your service dog in training doesn't need a walk. He does not need to go for a walk around your block or a walk through your neighborhood. He actually has 3 very specific needs, and that includes exercise, it includes time to move, sniff, and explore freely, and he needs to learn how to heal, okay? He needs these 3 things. And while very often we tend to think, yeah, that's why I take my dog for a walk, is for that exercise and that sniffing component, it really can come back to bite us if we haven't thought this all the way through. So often a daily walk either doesn't meet any of these needs in the first place, and we'll get back to that here in a second, or it meets the needs of the first 2 while sabotaging the third. So very often it's either not counting as exercise, time to move, sniff, and explore, or healing, or the other option is that very likely it is providing some exercise and some like free time to sniff and move, but it's actually sabotaging the healing training. So I want to talk about all 3 of these things and how you can separate them out for your dog so that you are actually meeting the needs of your dog for exercise and freedom without hurting your healing. So that first one is exercise, right? So for exercise to really count as exercise, it needs to get their heart rate up, okay? They need to be moving enough that their heart rate and their respiration rate and all of that stuff goes up. This is things like running, swimming, fetching, wrestling, etc. These are those high energy activities where our dog is really moving. This is heavily breed and age dependent, okay? So depending on how old your dog is and the type or breed of dog that he is going to heavily impact the type and amount of exercise that he needs. But for most dogs, walking simply does not do this. If you have an adolescent dog, if you have a dog who is not a toy breed, or if you have a dog that is not very low energy, walking on a leash is simply not going to count as exercise, especially during those adolescent years for most dogs. Again, this is breed and age specific, right? So there are specific ages and specific breeds that are going to be exceptions to what I'm talking about. But if you have any questions about the most appropriate type and duration of exercise for your dog, that is something you'll want to speak to your vet about. But walking around the block or walking through the neighborhood on a leash at your pace is very likely not actually acting as physical exercise because your dog is simply not moving fast enough. For dogs to receive physical exercise, usually they need to be at least doing that trotting, that jogging movement, if not actually running. And if your dog is not a puppy or a very small breed, then the pace at which you walk is not fast enough to get the dog into that trotting rhythm to actually serve as exercise. So while going for walks certainly can be valuable, they don't tend to hit the exercise requirement of most of our dogs during their adolescent years. Now, it can sometimes check that box of the need for freedom or time to move and sniff and explore. So again, the dog needs freedom to move, sniff, and explore. Dogs need to have time to move and sniff freely. This is important for their mental health. This is important for their ability to focus on you in training sessions. Our dogs need to be able to exhibit species appropriate behaviors in order to be behavioral and psychologically healthy. Species appropriate behaviors for our dogs include sniffing. It includes being able to move their body freely, so not being in that formal heel position every moment of the day. Being able to, weave around a little bit and move over here and move over there and change their pace. These are species-specific behaviors that are absolutely necessary for our dogs and their long-term health, physically and mentally. Now, this is closer to mental exercise. So while this concept of freedom to move and sniff and explore is not immediately physical exercise unless it's being done off leash, which of course a lot of handlers don't have access to safe places for off leash exercise. But allowing our dogs to move freely on a leash, to sniff, to explore a little bit, this gets more of that mental exercise category where a dog is able to use their brain, to smell different things, to see different things. And this can be achieved with an on-leash walk, okay? But it can also sabotage your heeling training if you are not careful. So I want to talk a little bit more about this freedom aspect, and then we're going to go into that component of not sabotaging your heeling training, because this really is one of the biggest things that makes a difference for our students in having success with their heeling training. But this need to move freely can be achieved on a leash, even just a normal 6-foot leash, okay? If they are not being required to stay in heel position. If they are able to move up a couple feet ahead of you, move out to the side, move behind you, stop and sniff, watch the squirrels, whatever. They still should not be pulling. When I talk about freedom to move and sniff, I am still expecting that dog to act like a polite dog, to walk politely. So we're not pulling, and we're still being responsive to the handler's cues, okay? But they aren't necessarily in that really solid heeling, strict heeling position. Because like I said, if you're not careful, this allowing of your dog to move and sniff and explore can hurt your heeling training, because when your dog is heeling, he shouldn't be sniffing. He shouldn't be moving freely. He should be staying in heel position. Now, heeling training, this is when you are actively teaching your dog to heel, right? You are wearing that trainer hat. You are thinking about your training session. You are focusing on your dog. You are actively teaching him to heel. So this, of course, looks different based on your dog's experience level as far as what you're expecting of your dog, but you are actively thinking about heeling, like you've got your trainer hat on, right? But this requires 100% consistency 100% of the time that your dog is on a leash. In fact, this is, if I was going to pick like one thing that ruins heeling training, it's this. Because there are a million ways to teach your dog to heel. Every trainer I know has a specific way that they like to teach dogs to heel. And they all work. But they don't work when the handler on the other end of the leash is not being 100% consistent 100% of the time. Now, I don't know about you, but I am not good at doing anything with 100% consistency, because this means that every time you take your dog out to go to the bathroom, every time you take him out for a walk, every time you take him from the car to your house or from the car into the vet office, he is learning how to heel. And if you're not maintaining that heel position, you are actively working against heeling. So how do we do both of these, right? How do we meet our dog's needs for exercise, meet their needs to move freely and sniff, and do that and still be successful teaching them to heel? So this is where I like to make sure that your dog knows when it's time to heel and when it's not. We need to be really 100% consistent with this. And that means we don't have to be 100% consistent when our dog is on a leash, because we are making a very clear distinction for him when I am expecting him to heel and when he does not need to heel. In our program, my coaches and I do this in this way. If the dog is wearing a collar or a gentle leader, we are heeling training and service dog behavior. Like that's what's going on whenever the dog is in a collar or a gentle leader, or if that is what their leash is attached to. So if their leash is attached to a collar, a flat normal collar, or a gentle leader, which I don't actually use for heeling training, gentle leaders are their kind of own topic. I use it to manage sniffing. We've talked about that in a lot of other videos. We will talk about that in the heeling workshop. that use of equipment is what communicates to my dog, we are teaching heel, you are acting like a service dog. Now, that will look different based on my dog's experience level, right? Because what I expect of a 16-week-old puppy is very different than what I will expect of a 2-year-old service dog, right? But if I, the handler, the trainer, have purposefully hooked the leash to their gentle leader or their collar, I am in that frame of mind where I am training heeling. I am training service dog behavior. I am teaching my dog how to be a service dog. If my dog is wearing a harness and I have the leash attached to their harness, that signifies to my dog that what I'm looking for is polite pet dog behavior. Okay? This is where they're not pulling. They're still responsive to my cues, but they can sniff, they can move freely, they can go say hi to somebody if that person is within reach and they do so politely. This is that really well-behaved pet dog. Okay, which is different than that formal service dog behavior. Now, we do need to train the skills necessary for each. So if I'm going to be having my dog on a gentle leader, I need to teach him to wear a gentle leader. And if I'm going to be walking him on a harness, I need to teach him how to politely and safely walk on a harness so that the handler does not get pulled over. We are going to talk about what these skills are and how to train them in the next YouTube video. In our next video, we will be talking about exactly what skills you need to train in order to have this polite walking and how to train them. But today, I wanted to talk about this aspect, this using pieces of equipment differently so that your dog knows what to expect. What this means is that when my dog is on a harness and we just go out for a bathroom break, I can be more informal. I don't have to be 1000% maintaining my heeling training because the harness tells my dog how he is allowed to behave. Okay, I can go for a walk around the block and I can let him sniff trees and I can let him stop when he wants to stop and I can let him move out of heel position as long as he's not pulling because the harness communicates that to him. And then when I switch it to a collar or a gentle leader, that communicates to him, okay, now we're heeling. We're not sniffing. We're not greeting people. You need to wait for a cue to move out of heel position. This is all stuff we will be covering in the heeling workshop in more depth, and we will have more upcoming YouTube videos on. So if there's anything that I've talked about here that you would like me to expand upon, please let me know in the comments so that I can work that into the next few videos and into the heeling workshop. And remember, though, that when I talk about using a collar versus a harness, this is how I use them. This is how we use them in our program. The point here is for you to be consistent with how you use the equipment so that you don't have to be 100% consistent as in actively heeling training every single moment that your dog is on a leash, okay? So remember, your dog needs exercise. He needs time to move freely and sniff freely, and he needs heeling training. And every time you hook him up to a leash, you should know consciously which one you are working on, which one you are doing, and make sure that you have found a clear way to communicate that to your dog as well. So, like I said, if you have questions, if there's anything you'd like me to expand upon, put them in the comments below or over in our Facebook group, Train Your Service Dog with Confidence, and you can find all the information about the heeling workshop, which starts July 2nd at the link below.